Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
You can't handle the truth.
December 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
I will build a great, great wall.
I'm gonna make him an offer again with you.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Welcome to Life Uncensored, the podcast that brings you sports, current events, politics, culture, life experiences, and more. Plus special guests with every new episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. And now, your host, Dan Sturgill.
Welcome to episode 2 of Life Uncensored. I am your host, Dan Sturgill. Today we're joined by Hunter Jones, former Major League Baseball pitcher with the Boston Red Sox and Florida Marlins. Hunter has, since his time in Major League Baseball, has used his experience to produce a successful career as an enterprise mobile software expert, advising some of the world's leading companies through their mobile software journey. He went to Dwyer High School in Jupiter, played ball at Florida State, and we're going to talk about everything from the beginning to the end. I'm honored to have my friend join us today. Hunter, welcome to Life Uncensored.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, PD. Appreciate it.
How are things going in sunny South Florida today?
Yeah, it couldn't be better. The weather's good. It's Saturday, right? So everyone's kind of chilling down here, and we're having a good time.
Nice. So I know your parts of your story. We've known each other, I guess, 15 years now, or maybe a little bit more than 15. I know that's hard to believe, but we're going to take your story. I met you. I met your mother. Met you through your mother. Your mother was renting a building from us for her school. And one day she said, "Hey, would you like to meet my son, Hunter?" I said, "Sure." And we chat, and it was great. And I thought, this is a pretty cool dude. And the next day I find out you left the building that we met in and hopped on a plane, flew to New York, and was standing on the mound in Yankee Stadium throwing fastballs at people's heads. And I said, that's a pretty cool life. You kind of failed to mention that day that you were a Major League Baseball pitcher. That was pretty cool, though. And we got to chat a little bit about that. So let's go all the way back. And you remember that first conversation, I presume?
Yeah. I remember that. That was a unique year, too, just because that was right around September. And that was my first year being with the Sox, or just being in the league in general. And I'd been there most of the year. And so at that point, I'd kind of cashed it in. We were halfway through September, I think. I was like,
yes.
I'm not going anywhere. That's it for the season. So it was kind of a surprise what you had mentioned. That was pretty unique, too, because it was like you said, I got flown up and then got into a game the next day for whatever reason. I don't even know why they needed me there, but they just threw me in, and I haven't really been in the game since September or since August, and then it was like mid-September.
Yeah. So what do you got to lose, right? Opportunities of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. And from that point to this, we've had many conversations about life things, and you got such a fascinating baseball story, and I'm a huge baseball fan. Love baseball, love the strategy of it. I love every part of it, but and we'll get to all of that. But to get there, we're going to go and take a journey on your life story, and it's called Life Uncensored for a reason. So let's go to the beginning. Hunter Jones is born where at?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
West Palm Beach. And what month were you born in?
January.
All right. So look, our first episode, our birthday was February. Our second episode is January. So we're already dyslexic at Life Uncensored. That's fantastic. So, Hunter, tell me from the beginning. You're born. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. When did you kind of figure out that you liked baseball?
I think it's one of those things that I knew just even before I knew anything. Like it was one of those things I was just going to be a professional baseball player. And I think there's a lot of people that have these similar stories. It's just that you have your mind on something. I can give you an example. So when I was maybe 2 or 3, my mom said I threw a shoe across the shoe store. And shoe salesman was like, "Hey, that's going to be a Major League Baseball player."
I love it. That's pretty good. How far did you whip the shoe?
I don't know, but I guess far enough at that age. I mean, how far can you throw a shoe when you're 3 years old, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think very far.
No, but apparently it was enough to catch some attention from a few folks. So
that's pretty good. So at 3 years old, you're chucking a shoe across the store.
I guess so.
And your mom, instead of getting mad, is like, "Oh, this dude's going to the show. Yeah, he's going to be a baseball player." I love that. Says a lot about your mom, doesn't it?
Well, that's what the shoe guys said. Because I don't even think my mom realized I had a good arm, maybe, or maybe she did, but then it was confirmed. But so the shoe guys, the random shoe guys that had never met her, never seen me, watched me just throw the shoe across the store, and they're like, "Whoa, that's a major league arm."
I love it. And naturally, it would be the guys, right? There's all this chaos in the store, and they're like, "Yeah, but he may have whipped his shoe across the floor and broke somebody's shin. But man, did you see the arc on that thing? He's going to the show." I love it. So
I feel it too, because I don't know if you get in these scenarios, but life is some of the same, day to day. And so, I found myself in those scenarios. You just see something that stands out a little bit, and it can be whatever, especially from a young guy. It's just it's pretty cool to see,
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. So that's 3 years old, and you start to progress. So how old were you when you first started playing organized baseball? Were you a T-ball guy? Do you remember any experience from that, or when did you first start?
Yeah, I think I kind of did T-ball all the way up, and I don't think I missed a season or anything like that. I had played, at least from what I remember, I had kind of played from T-ball all the way around. But you're talking about just probably the once a year rec season for a while. It wasn't like we didn't really have travel ball when I was growing up, so it was kind of that, and then just once all the way into high school. One season kind of thing.
And you were a pitcher, of course, if I failed to mention that. Did you ever play any other positions? You always just feel like you were a pitcher? When did you just kind of zero in on pitching?
Yeah, I actually I always thought I would be an outfielder. I was a pretty good outfielder, pretty good batter. I guess I was a good pitcher too. I don't know. I had more skills than just an arm. But in high school, our high school coach had us do some diving practice my junior year, and I did something to my wrist. Never got it diagnosed, but I couldn't really swing a bat again after that for a few years. So something happened, and then it kind of derailed my ability to play in the field.
So was this your right wrist, I'm assuming?
Yeah, right wrist. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got kind of stuck on a, and I mean, hey, it is what it is, but to all the would-be coaches listening out there, don't do stuff like that. Don't have your players do the diving practice.
Yeah.
And in the St. Augustine long and short grass without it being clipped and all that. So it's just, it's kind of one of those things. I think it's just, he didn't, my old high school coach didn't really play baseball. And so he probably didn't know any better, but yeah, I'd always kind of look back on that. I was like, man, I guess we all do it, but could have been a player in the field, and then just ended up being a pitcher.
How in the world do you get a baseball coach in a high school like Dwyer that never played baseball?
I mean, I don't want to say he never played baseball, but he wasn't well liked, and he was just not. He wasn't like. There's some guys that are cut out for that sort of thing, and there's some guys that aren't. He wasn't really one of them. I mean, he ran a lot of players off the field. He ran a lot of talent off the field. You know, for me anyway. And I've never been much of a coach. I coached a little bit after I got done playing, but it wasn't about having to win or anything like that for me. I had already accomplished what I wanted to out of baseball. And I think that's the difference for some of those guys that, like, there's a guy named Jared Saltalamacchia in town, great coach. I think he was coaching for Kings Academy. I'm not sure if he's still there. He's a former major leaguer. And, I can tell you confidently without even knowing that much about his coaching style that it's not about him. It's just about him helping young men. So if they're struggling with, what have you, he certainly wouldn't run them off the field. As contrast, he'd probably try to help them to move their life forward or to do better and that sort of thing. So that's why I say that is not just because of the baseball, because you could have a lack of knowledge and still have a good heart, but when you really don't have either, it's a tough scenario.
Yeah, I love it. Lack of heart, lack of knowledge. That's not a combination for success, my brother. Not even close.
No, it's not.
So you're going through middle school, junior high, high school, and what grade were you in when you started playing varsity baseball?
Okay, so that's a good question. I started right out of the gate freshman year, but I actually don't think I told you this. I went to Suncoast High School my first year, and then I transferred. I was in. It was kind of nerdy a little bit. I was in the math science engineering program, and so they offered that at Suncoast, which was like a school where you could go and I can't remember what they're called, but you can go there and get like a special education. But I valued the baseball more, so I ended up wanting to go to a school that was pretty good at baseball after.
Yeah. So then you go your sophomore year, you changed high schools. What was that like?
Good. I remember it being it was a really good switch for me. I think in general, my first freshman year or the year that I went to Suncoast, it was a little tough just because the sports weren't where I wanted them to be, I guess. And no offense to them. I mean, it's a school that's made for school, but
right.
But I think just in general, I'm a believer in general about being in the wave. So you gotta be around people that are going to push you to get better. Yeah.
I agree. So you switch, and Suncoast and Dwyer's not that far apart. So you go to your sophomore year of high school. You probably knew some of the guys already, right?
Yeah, actually, I did. So there's a couple guys that I kind of knew, and then just made friends fast. I mean, I made an impact my sophomore year. I wouldn't say I was dominating, but started right out of the gate and became part of the team. Maybe, anyone who plays high school sports, if you're on the team, you already got a bunch of friends. If you're in the game, you're well respected immediately. And so
right.
It was a nice, quick, like you go to a new school and okay, a couple of people, but then you're on a sports team starting and now you have a whole bunch of friends that, maybe you didn't know. So it was a good transition.
So you start now, were you playing any other sports, or did you by high school say, I'm just sticking with baseball?
I kind of thought about playing football. We had a really good quarterback at our high school. So I think that was part of the reason is we were already kind of set in that department. But, always looking back, you can regret things. It's like a minor regret. I was like, I would have liked to have at least seen maybe a sophomore or junior season at quarterback and say, was it worth anything for a football field or no? But
yeah,
in retrospect, just seeing all the concussions and all that kind of stuff, it's like it's not such a bad thing, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And concussions, injuries. Speaking of that, your brother was a offensive tackle and was highly recruited, and it's looking like you might have two people playing professional sports, and he blew out his knee, right?
Yeah,
Was it his knee?
I think he hurt his knee, but he really screwed his ankle up. Is where it was bad too. Just to give the listeners an idea of it, it's like it looked like Frankenstein's foot. Like he had a plate and 8 screws going in to hold the bone all together. It got snapped in a bunch of places, and his tendons and ligaments got kind of snapped. I don't know which ones, but it's pretty bad when you're like they have to turn your foot right side up kind of deal. So yeah,
not good.
No,
and that's a football injury right there. I saw one my sophomore year in high school. One of our linemen. It always seems to be the linemen that get those kind of injuries, because they're blocking and people get blocked into them and roll them up. And same thing, rolled his ankle and it was pointed in the wrong direction. And that was not cool. Not cool. Nasty. So you don't mess with football, get through high school. At what point and what in your journey through high school did your coach or guidance counselor or whomever say to you, "Hey, Hunter, there's a chance you could be playing ball, Division I somewhere," or did the colleges come looking for you? How does that process work, the recruiting process?
I think it was other people, for me at least, and I didn't live in the age of the internet in high school, but like I said, my high school coach didn't really help anyone. As far as I can remember, he didn't do any calls, nothing like that. But there was a guy who had a son on a team called Wellington High School, which is a little further south. His name was Bob Bradley. So he started to put me in some of these little showcases that were, he's saying, "Hey, we're putting together a Palm Beach County showcase team." So they were bringing me different places and started to have some professional teams get interested in me about it. And I actually thought I was going to go in the professional draft straight out of high school. The Pirates were asking me if I would sign out of the 5th round right before the draft and asking me about what money would I take and that sort of thing. I went to Florida State to play baseball, but I didn't have a scholarship going into just before spring. I went up to a winter camp, and the Florida State guys saw me in a bullpen and signed me on the spot for 33% scholarship or something. So it wasn't like I got a paid ride right away, but they did sign me on on a whim. Okay, lefty throwing hard. Nobody's picked him up yet. Here's an offer right now. And so I took it. That was the number 1 baseball school in the country at the time.
Wow. So you didn't grow up saying, I want to play college ball at Florida State or Miami, or did you? Was there a college that you thought when you were younger, yeah, that's where I'm going to go play ball?
I actually wanted to go play at Stanford in California.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a regret, but hey, listen, what do you do when you're 17 and you don't know anything, right?
What do you do when you're 30 and you don't know what you're doing?
Right. So, I had some other letters and stuff. I'm not trying to make it look like, hey, I didn't have interest. I had some LSU send me stuff. There's a couple things like that. I can't remember all of them, but there were some schools, FAU, which was a local D1 that, they were kind of almost like D2, but they're pretty good because they're in South Florida, that sort of thing. And, but I always kind of regretted not going to Stanford. I had just, a couple of people tell me, it's probably not a good idea or whatever. And then, later on, you're like, well, everything worked out, so it's fine. But also my opinion of it now at 40 is I usually say I'm not taking anyone's advice unless they're where I want to be. Right.
Well, that's pretty good. That's That's some pretty good advice. Don't say that again. Don't ever take advice from somebody that's not where you want to be.
Well, I just don't take advice from people unless they are where I want to be, because most people kind of just throw out their opinion and it's their
Right.
advice and it's through their lens. And so I look at it and I'm like, well, okay, that's advice from a not nice person. I don't want that advice. Or that's advice from, somebody who isn't where I want to be career wise. So that's not going to be good advice or what have you.
Yeah.
And then there is good advice based, it's just what you're looking for. Right. So, but at that time, obviously I didn't have those kind of skills. So I was just kind of like, well, okay, they all say that I shouldn't go out for a visit to Stanford because it's worthless. So I just won't. So I guess the moral of the story there is, it's really not that big a deal if you're a young guy and you you think there's any chance. I mean, you got to live in reality, right?
Right.
But if you're a pretty good player and you want to go somewhere, go fly out there, go to the, and this is a Major League Baseball telling anyone this that's listening, right? I mean,
Yeah.
go fly out there, go knock on the coach's door, say, give me 15 minutes, let me get stretched. I want to throw a bullpen. I just flew from Florida. Give me 15 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing that separates, I think, successful people from regretful people who live their life in regret and the what ifs versus those who say, I'm going to win at this. And I don't care. I'm not intimidated to fly out to California and knock on a door and say, hey, let's take a look at what I got. I can deal with reality. You're right. I know what I got. I know what I can throw. So
Right.
come look at it. And I'm convinced when you see it, you're going to know what I already know. And if not, you're dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's some guys that are like, they're younger guys too, like I see it in the workplace sometimes. Some of these guys are 24, 25. Like, I think that they're that age, but like if I couldn't see their face, they might as well be 50. And I think it's just how they
Wow.
approach it. It's like, though I don't know. I don't know about you, PD, but I was nervous to call somebody by their first name who's older than me, maybe until I was roughly 30, like upper 20s. But, I think there's nothing better than a young man that walks up and says, hey, Hunter, how you doing? Shakes my hand hard. And, even at 22 shows that I mean, that's good confidence to have,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You told, I don't want to get ahead of our story and our path, but one of the funniest stories you ever told me was about your time with Florida Marlins, and the owner walked in and was walking through the clubhouse and was talking to folk, and you said hi to him, and but you called him by his wrong name. And tell that story. That still cracks me up. Love that story.
yeah, that was a little painful. But yeah, I did do that. And
but it wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't a disrespectful thing. Yeah,
it wasn't disrespectful, honestly. And I think those guys are smart enough to know, like, and it sounds strange to the audience, but like probably 70%, 75% of the guys in their organization doesn't know the owner's name at all. Right. Doesn't know what he looks like at all.
Right.
So yeah, but I think he didn't take it the wrong way. Probably just being more mature and realizing that, I just wanted to introduce myself and say thanks for the trade, because they had traded for me. But
Right.
in poor form, because a Google search would have given me the name straight away, right?
So, whatever, right? I still think it's a great story. We're going to hit some of the stories that cracked me up in your story. But so then you get this somebody else, not your current coach in high school, but someone else trying to get your talents out there, which is great, because I believe that to get where we want to go, we got to have help. Being in the right place at the right time. And so that happens. You get this scholarship offer to Florida State. Tell me what it's like because Florida State driving Tallahassee from West Palm, what is that, 5 hours, 6 hours or more?
6 to 8, depending on traffic.
Wow. So you're going, and this is the first time you're going away from home. And
Yep.
And at that point in high school, so you grew up. There's you, your brother, your sister, and your parents. So your mom at this point is like your biggest cheerleader in high school. Isn't that generally how it works?
Yeah, definitely.
And your parents got divorced at some point. How old were you when that happened?
14.
So did baseball provide this great outlet for you to like deal with whatever that process was? I know how difficult that is for people, young people, to go through their parents divorcing. How did that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good for anyone involved, right? It's not good for the parents. It's not good for the kids. Divorce is a horrible thing for
Yeah,
everyone involved, right?
right.
I think for me, and really for anybody who's going through a situation like that, it's really good to lean into something that you're kind of good at, because there's nothing that makes you feel unconfident like a broken home in the
Right,
first place, right?
right.
So you can lean into those skills, which I mean I did. I think I leaned into them way harder once that divorce had happened than beforehand. Like I was just a good player beforehand, whereas I poured myself into baseball after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know how common that story is for people that reach the pinnacle of sports or business or whatever. There was some kind of turning point where they just like everything was removed and they got tunnel vision and they just got laser focused on their thing, and their thing just blew up and they become highly successful people. So how did that affect like your parents, both your parents, the kind of parents that never missed a game? How did it work after the divorce with you and your dad? Were you guys, do you stay close? Do you stay involved? Did your mom stay close, stay involved? I mean, how did all that work?
Yeah, I think everyone tried to. There are some rocky relationships here and there, and I think that's what happens when a family goes through that in general. But for me, anyway, it was just almost getting into baseball in an unhealthy way, if you will,
Yeah, yeah,
and just really, I mean, just really, really into it. By the time I was like a sophomore, junior, I wasn't really going home, and it wasn't like to stay away from people. It was just more like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'm trying to get drafted in the first round. Didn't happen that way, but that was really what I was pushing for, and started to see that, and so it became more about my success than worrying about a family that's, I don't know, that I look at both my parents, like look back, and even now I'm like they're both nice people. It's just that they're children.
right.
So, and aren't we all, right? In our own
Yeah,
ways. So it
yeah,
just
yeah.
became, yeah, you become an adult a little faster, I think, with those things. And I mean, how do you process from 14 on? Because if you're like 7 and it happens, or 6, you're like a little marshmallow still. So it's like, well, life forward is this, right?
Right,
But when
right,
you're right in that like freshman year of high school, and you're like, you're growing up like this, and then all of a sudden it's like this, totally different.
right.
So it can affect you. It can make a change. I think I got lucky with baseball, just because it's way harder, I think, for people that don't have that something that they're good at to feel confident with.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Whether that's sports or playing an instrument, writing, drawing, whatever your gift is, right? Maybe it is the whole. That's how the pearl comes out of your life, is by irritation, right? And controversy and chaos, and it causes you to zero in on what you do. Maybe you got this confidence to be a ball player electrified during that. So you go through that, and now your relationship with your parents from that point all the way up. How is your relationship with your parents? Everything good?
Yeah, I mean, there's there's rocky roads with I think any family, particularly a family that got divorced. But ultimately, uh, I see each one of my parents roughly once a week or so, as best I can. I do travel a lot now, but when I'm in town, hey, I want to try to see them once a week. So
Love it.
it's all good.
Yeah, love it. And I don't think I've ever met your father, but I've met your mother, and your mother is a gem. She is a wonderful lady. We enjoyed our business relationship with her while we were in West Palm Beach, and haven't seen her in quite some time. But did you? Maybe you don't know this, but your mom still every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, and every New Year sends me a text telling me Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving. Normally on my birthday, and then various times throughout the year. Isn't that something? She's still doing that.
Yeah, she's good like that.
Yeah, I got to be better.
She's good at that. I wish I was more like that too. I try, but it's hard, man. It's hard to do that.
It is. It is. And let's come back to that story. So you come through high school. You get you go through this process of recruiting. You come into Florida State. Tell me what that's like. You're leaving home for the first time. You're 6 to 8 hours away from home, and you're walking on the campus of the Florida State Seminoles. And what year was this that you were at Florida State?
Yeah, so 2002 was my first fall there.
So they're still kind of pretty active in the football scene, or no? Like obviously they have a football team, but is that the time when they were really dominant?
Not at the time I was there.
No,
no, but we weren't like terrible either. I didn't go through the terrible time, but we were just kind of like, we were coming off of Winky. So I was not, or was that Winky? I think it was. I can't remember. No, Winky was after me. Sorry. No, we had Chris Ricks was our quarterback. And he honestly really was a physical talent, but he just, it seemed like he struggled up top.
Yeah. And that's a big deal, by the way. If you don't get the mental part right, and we've talked a little bit about that. I want to come back to that in a few minutes, but you go on the campus, you walk on Florida State, you're looking around. You got some of these big name football players, big name basketball players, big name baseball players on this campus. You're looking around and you're saying, hey, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of that for sure. I think honestly, this was a good experience for later too. But you're right. Some of our defensive players on the Florida football team that would work out in the gym with us, like Ernie Sims and Darnell Dockett. And Darnell Dockett was a NFL Hall of Famer, I think. On our team, obviously, there's a lot of guys that had success, and they were coming back off of a good year or two. Hey, they're going to be starting this year. There's not a lot of positions open. Oh, and by the way, for anything that is open, we also just signed a guy named Mark Sauls that turned down a second round draft spot that throws 95. So good luck, pitchers, right?
Yeah. And you're like, rut-row.
Yeah, it's like okay, that's you got like when you're at a big school like that. Not only that, but you have JUCO players that are constantly trying to come in. So junior colleges, the rule on it is you only have to play 1 year at a time there. So you could have somebody that went from high school, went 1 year to JUCO, got way better, said, now I want to do it. Or, for instance, somebody that got out of high school, took a red shirt because they weren't playing, and then played 2 years at JUCO, and then said, all right, now I'm coming over at 21, 22 years old to play my third and fourth year. And you're 17, 18.
Right. And you're at a disadvantage for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, but I think when you're at that level, though, everyone has skills. And it really just it's like for the first time you're getting thrown in the fire in your life. If you're in that position, you're going to get thrown in the fire if you want to do good things in life, I think.
Yeah.
So for me anyway, I think I leveraged on that for every other step I took in life.
So tell me about the fire. I mean, high school's one thing, especially when you're surrounded by great talent. South Florida is full of unbelievable talent in football, basketball, baseball. I mean, it's a hotbed for athletes, some incredible athletes, and all sports, Hall of Famers that have come out of South Florida. So you grew up in that environment. The area supports sports, so you're used to playing in front of people. You're used to the chants. You're used to the noise, the pressure. Take us the first time you're at Florida State. Let us walk on the mound with you to your first time they call you onto the field to pitch, and then what was your most intense moment pitching at Florida State?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time that you do anything like that, it's the hardest. I just remember it being something where I think I threw like the first two pitches were balls, and they weren't really that close, but they weren't like terrible. And I kind of just gritted down. And something that I had always done when I was younger is when I got into a tough spot, I would just say, throw it as hard as you can right there, because that's going to allow my talent to go into the ball, right?
Right.
And then this guy is going to decide if he has better talent and confidence than me, period. So that's what it is. And so I ended up doing well because of it. But I think some of the guys that get lost in their confidence growth, you're going to come to a point like that, whether it's your first outing or your third, but you have to actually take the ball and say, here's my best. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I love that. That's an alpha mentality. I love that. So the first time you walk on the mound, your hands sweating, are your heart racing? What's going through your mind?
I was nervous. I never had hand sweats. I got to tell you, I feel really fortunate. I got dad's hands. It's like, no sweat whatsoever on the hands.
Good.
So I can feel the baseball, but heart's pumping fast, right?
Yeah. And how many people do you suppose are standing there watching?
Honestly, at Florida State, it's a decent amount. I mean, I don't know how many now, but even then it was like thousands,
Yeah. Now, and I bring this up.
2 to 5.
I bring this up only because there are people who watch sports, whether college, pro, or even high school, when they go to local things even. And there's a dimension of playing ball that until you've done it, you really don't know what that's like. Like, you don't know if you just watch it and you've never done it, you don't know what it feels like to run onto a field, whether football, baseball, basketball, wrestling, track, I mean, whatever. And there are hundreds or thousands of people staring at you, right? And they're all this. If you're a pitcher, everybody's staring at you, and all them eyes are on you. And it's not like just throwing the ball in the backyard. This is a whole different level. So you're stepped out, you get up on this mound, and there are thousands of people eyeballing you, and probably you throw a ball. It's like, you throw two. Oh man, this idiot! What the way people yell, and fans are fans, and you're standing out there, and everybody's eyes locked on you. What's going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some people that can handle that, and some people that can't, and you can kind of work into it, but in those moments, that is what it is, because everyone's going to feel the same thing. What you're going to feel is you're going to feel a whole bunch of thoughts coming into your head. A lot of them are fears from whatever part of your life wasn't fulfilled, truthfully, right?
Right.
And that's what you're seeking to overcome right there, because self-talk's really important. And, as an athlete, you're going to have to develop it if you want to get good. It's just the way it is. You're going to be standing there saying things like you had just said, I can't believe this ball to, oh man, this guy can really hit. I'm facing the 3-hole batter, whatever. Right. It doesn't matter. When you get perspective from the other side too, if you got a good fastball, and I can tell you this just from later, I got treated in the National League. And I always had a good fastball, but I didn't realize it was actually a good fastball until I started batting against these other pitchers when I got moved to the National League later. And you start seeing some of these fastballs come in, and you can't even see them.
Yes, we had that conversation one time. I'll never forget this conversation. I was still in West Palm, and we were just talking about, I think it might have been Rick Ankiel at the time, who was the pitcher who had whatever happened in his mind, and he wasn't able to continue throwing strikes. So it's like, well, this dude's a good athlete, so they put him in the outfield. And he's doing great out there, and he's just living his best life. And I was like, we were talking about, I was just saying how crazy it is that a pitcher could just switch positions like that and have no problems. And then other guys, like guys in the American League at the time, they had the DH rule, so they didn't have to hit, and unless they were playing against a National League team. And I said, it's shocking how bad some of these pitchers are at swinging a bat. And totally. you said, yeah, but it's different standing there with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming at your head than it is trying to play it in a video game. It's like a whole different thing. And there's only a handful of guys really in the population that can get up there and not be afraid of that ball and be able to actually see it and make contact. It's like, yeah, that's the fan, right? The fan in us thinks, oh, I could do that. And ain't no problem. Yeah, yeah, you're seeing rockets coming in, you saying, when you were pitching or hitting in the National League. And you're like, what was that? So almost like Ricky Bobby when he's driving his car and he's trying to get over his accident. And he's like, I'm going fast. And then all of these cars go flying by him. He's like, what were those things? Yeah.
I'll tell you, so you brought something up to mind, and it's a little off track, but there's a guy named Chris Perez, and he played for Miami, and then he was the closer for Cleveland for a while. And I remember I told you my wrist was kind of hurt, and started swinging the bat again at Florida State, and some guys found some stats on me, and they're like, oh, you can hit. So they put me in an at-bat, a random at-bat. We were playing Miami. And, of course, Chris Perez is pitching. Nobody really knows about him yet. Guy throws 100 miles an hour, basically, 95 to 100.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, yeah.
Lucky me.
Just punches me out 3 pitches, and then 10 years later or whatever, I'm doing a start in New Orleans, and he's down from Cleveland to AAA to rehab, and he's starting against me. So I got to face him twice, once in college, once in pro, and the at-bats went about the same. I mean, by the time I got the pro ball, I knew who he was, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get my foot down really fast, and I'm going to ambush him here. I'm going to take him yard or take him deep in the gap because he's definitely coming fastball. So pro ball, first pitch, I'm getting ready to put my foot down early, and the pitch is right in the middle. Didn't even get my foot down.
And this is why your stories are great, because you're just brutally honest. You just lay it out there. Yeah, that's what happened. I didn't get my foot down, and the ball had already hit the mitt. Yep.
Yeah, but you know what, man? That's what we all got to work on, I think, with our egos too, because, and especially as an athlete, you're going to get an ego quick as a young guy, and you need to have that. I think a coach who tries to coach that out of players they belong on the sidelines. But as a person, right? And so like later as you're growing into a better player and a better person, because you can't do that when you're young. You need the ego, right? I can do it. I can beat him. But you start getting older and you start getting wiser, and you go, all right, that guy throws really hard. But let me cheat to a different swing.
Right? I'm gonna try something.
Yeah.
Because what I just tried didn't work. That didn't work.
Right. Yeah, because you can be honest with yourself, but it didn't really matter what I did with that guy, though. I mean, you're talking about a closer in the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
And so like it was the same thing. Next thing I swung earlier, he threw me a breaking ball. I like fell over, and then third one I just gave up, threw right down the middle, 100. Just go take a seat and eat.
I'm gonna go back to pitching. I ain't messing with this guy. Yeah, and of course I'm an Indians fan. They call them the Guardians now, but they're always going to be the Indians to me. Grew up loving the Indians, so yeah, I know all about Perez. Yeah, dude's no joke. It was great to watch him play. I just didn't know he treated my friend that poorly. So
That guy has some
I'm gonna have
stuff, man.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. So you go from figuring out Florida State. You driving like what is it like being an athlete in Division I college like Florida State? Like what is an average day in season for someone like you at that time? Like you hear stuff all the time about boosters sliding, $100 handshakes to guys and all that, but you want to hit any of that, go ahead. But I'm talking like you get up when, where you staying on campus, you have a roommate that's another ball player. Like what did an average day in season look like for this college student athlete?
Yeah, I wish there was $100 handshakes because that would have been cool. I needed some $100 handshakes, but that wasn't the case for me at least.
Yeah.
But no, I had a couple of roommates. They were ball players, and then by my junior year, my third year, my brother and I just became roommates at Florida State. He ended up.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic. My sons did that.
A little easier than having another ball player because having a ball player on the team, it's like your secrets are going to get exposed in the clubhouse.
Yes. They're coming out. That's right.
They're coming out, man.
Before I forget, any other players on your team in college go pro? How far did any of the rest of them go? And did you stay in touch with them once you guys made it to the show?
Yeah, so not really stayed in touch, but kind of followed along. There was a bunch of guys. So there's a guy named Daniel Davidson. He was 1 year ahead or 2 years ahead of me, but signed. I can't remember. Anyway, I think he was a couple years older. He went pro, made it to the big leagues. We had Shane Robinson went pro, made it to the big leagues. JD Drew. Not JD. Steven, his brother. But also played a while in the big leagues. Trying to think if I was missing anyone. I don't want to miss anyone here, but I think that was it. Right around my time, though. So that was all within 3 years on the same team. So I mean, pretty stacked team, right?
Yeah,
and a whole bunch of guys played up to AAA and stuff.
So you get through college, and by the time you hit your sophomore, junior year, your roommate is your brother. And so you've got a little bit more actual, this is my safe zone. I don't have to worry about the nonsense. I don't have to worry about someone being disloyal, keeping my secrets. You got your brother, so you're all good. And so now you're really hitting your stride in sports. And then you get this opportunity to leave school and go into being drafted. You're drafted by the Red Sox, right?
So I gotta break this story up and tell you there's a couple of little bumps here. It was a free agent sign. I had broken my arm my sophomore year and was on the road back junior year. So I had a tough end sophomore year, tough junior year coming back. Had to go to Cape Cod League to get signed.
So wait a minute. How did you break your arm?
Pitching.
So this was your pitching arm?
Yep.
So what happened? Like it's in a game in practice? Like what happened?
Yeah, so it was so I started out my sophomore year like crazy good. And maybe 7-8 starts into it, I started really complaining about my elbow, and I was telling the trainers, and I was telling the pitching coach and all that, and the trainers were certain it was like they're like, yeah, it's biceps tendonitis. So I know your elbow's hurting, but it's really just your biceps tendon. There's nothing that can happen. It's just such a big tendon, so it's just it'll pass. So I don't know. My arm really hurts. Just kept pitching. And it would just started going poorly, and it was the coach, pitching coach, kind of pointed at me a little bit, but I guess that makes sense. He's pitching coach at Florida State. He wants to keep his job. Why is this guy not doing well? But nobody's listening to me about my arm. My arm's killing me. So one day I'm pitching up in North Carolina, and it just breaks. Or no, sorry, I was in Clemson. I was at Clemson and it just broke like first or second inning, just on a pitch. Just on a fastball. Yeah, so it didn't come out of my arm. The bone didn't come out, but my basically my olecranon process, which is like that little ball joint, had kind of just like splintered all the way through, and then my ulna, which is like one of your forearm bones, kind of had cracked also.
Ouch! And so, like, did you hear this thing pop?
No, but I just remember like extreme pain, and then almost being like released from the pain for a minute. And the pitch was like just terrible. And everyone in the stadium knew that something was bad. And my buddy had recorded it. I never watched it, actually. I never watched it, never wanted to watch it. But he said my arm just kind of fell.
Wow. And I can imagine a ton of pain hit after that.
Yeah, that one was pretty terrible. I ended up having 3 surgeries total in my career, but that one was the worst by far.
So how long does it take to recover from that?
It's one of those like surgeries where I went into it, and a lot of people were saying, like, because it's not a common injury in the first place. And so a lot of people were saying like, hey, this might be it. You need to prepare yourself for that. Like, nobody really knows if you're going to be able to play again. And likely you won't.
And then you're saying what?
No, I'm going to be playing again.
Because that's the alpha in Hunter Jones. You just wired different. And that's probably why we have gotten along so well, because you got to be wired different to succeed. And you never take no.
It really is. I think there's some people that have it, some people don't. And I'm not saying it's all good. It's not like, there's challenges to it, right? But
sure.
Even back to childhood, my aunt sat me down at her house one time, and it's my mom's sister, right? So she cares about us, of course, and she's like, well, hey, what do you kind of want to do when you're getting older? I think she was kind of working with me with math or something. Just we were homeschooled. I don't know if I told you that for a while.
No.
When we were kids, so we would go to my aunt's. Her kids were homeschooled too, so we kind of just learning would pick up whenever everyone had free time, and then obviously that's kind of how homeschooling goes. But you have assignments to take. So when you go visit your aunt, you're not just visiting to go like play outside all day. You actually have to sit down for a few hours here and there, and people start just teaching you things. So anyway, which it's kind of cool. But my aunt was asking me, she goes, well, what do you want to do when you get older? And I was like, well, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player. She's like, well, what's your backup plan? I'm like, no, there's no backup plan. That's it. That's what I'm doing.
That's where I'm going. That's right.
So when you have that, though, I think people lose track of where they're going because they weren't sure in the first place. But also, like, when you have that, so you broke your arm, right? And it's like nobody's really done it before like that, kind of. There's like some slim cases, and nobody made it there after that. So, like, why would you? And that's how everyone kind of thinks. And for me anyway, I was like, no, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player. So, like, I don't really care what you think.
Right. I'm going. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I already knew I was going to. So this was just like something. It's like, it's almost like if you believe in God's plan, right? It's like, that's what I knew I was going to do. And this is just something that happened in between. That was a little setback. And again, if you subscribe to the, I don't care about your opinion because you've never been there. Well, Why would I take the opinion of an accountant who says, no, you're not going to do it? Or a doctor who says, no, you're not going to do it? Or anyone, right? Because
Right.
you're not a former Major League Baseball player, so your opinion doesn't count here.
Right. Yeah. And you've never pitched. And I got a much better breaking ball slider curve than you got. So I'm going to the show. That's what your
That's what's
mindset
funny.
was.
That's what's funny too, though, because I think had I been in that situation, breaking my arm, but I had counsel from a former Major League Baseball player, they probably would say, "Yeah, you're fine. You just need to rehab it properly, and whatever." Because everyone who's been in sports knows that you're not going to get out unscathed. You're
No.
going to get surgeries. Period. Like that's how it's going to be. So just
Yeah.
how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. So you break your arm, you go through this, I'm sure, grueling, painful rehab that if you're not committed to, there's no way you can get through. And you finish your junior year and you go to Cape Cod, you said. Pick it back up from there. What happens over there?
Yeah. So junior year was terrible at Florida State. My arm was hurting. My fastball wasn't the same. I couldn't live up to anything that I was doing my first 2 years. Right. Go to Cape Cod, and by the time the season's over, junior year now, the former head coach Mike Martin, senior, who had been there a very long time, even when I was there, kind of posed it to him like, "Hey, man, you owe me this one. Like, I need to be up in Cape Cod. My arm feels good. I'm throwing hard. Get me up there." And got to give him credit. He delivered on that. I don't think he thought that anything was going to come of it because of just how terrible the junior year was, but
Yeah.
it did. I went up, I was playing for Orleans in Cape Cod League, and I threw, I think, 15 shutout innings and 20-some strikeouts and was throwing hard again, and got a couple teams interested and got an offer. Just took it.
But what was that like going to this and explain what the Cape Cod League is and what was the experience like? Because you're going to another level, right? You've high school to college is a whole new level. College to the Cape Cod League, whole new level. What was the change for you? What was it like?
Yeah, so Cape Cod League is it's basically like an all-star team of college players. It's the premier league in college summer ball. In college summer ball, the purpose is to go out and showcase your skills. Because if you're at the Cape Cod League, there's going to be a whole bunch of professional scouts. And there's another league, Alaska, probably a lot less scouts. But, if you do well there, if you go up to Alaska and you have a good summer, for instance, let's say you're a freshman at a big school. You go up to Alaska, have a good summer. Well, you're probably starting next year, right? Because you went up and did well in a big league. But when you go to Cape Cod, every pitch that you make, there's 10, 20 radar guns in the back. Every pitch you make, right? So it was that premier, and the batters are using wood bats, and it was kind of a heyday for guys who kind of were throwing hard up there because all the batters were used to using metal. So you had a little bit of an advantage if you were throwing hard.
Right. And what is that like? You step on the mound there, and it seems so far in this uncensored story of your life, it seems like every adversity that you're thrown, you just come back and swing harder. And every time you get put on a big platform, you just perform. So here you are again, coming off a broken arm in Cape Cod League, and you're just doing your thing. And all of a sudden, seems like your confidence coming back, and you're just like, yeah, this is just another step. I'm going to be a pro baseball player. Y'all ain't getting this yet, but that's where we're going. So then you get an offer. Who's the offer from?
The Red Sox.
And so how does that work? They call you, one of their representatives call you. How does that work?
Yeah, they started having conversations with myself and my agent their advisor at the time, who was kind of a family friend. And so we kind of got the deal worked through that angle. I don't think it was actually the best deal, to be honest, but it was a deal they were interested in, and I went. I'd heard later there was more money on the table with another team, but just didn't get there. Just signed too quick.
Gotcha. So what was that like? That was your first payday. What was that payday?
10th round money, roughly. So it wasn't like big money. Had I went back for my senior year, I think you can have guys that go back and make a couple $100,000. But the way I looked at it, I said, hey, look, this is 10th round money. I am going to be a prospect with the Red Sox. They want me. And I hadn't felt that in a while. And honestly, I just I didn't feel that at Florida State. I was also nervous, even though, like, hey, I really appreciated the move that Mike Martin made, and I really don't have anything bad to say about him at all. I think he did a great job in his career. So let me table that. But I think from my perspective, and just players in general, take this out of it. You can have a coach that you highly respect and have nothing bad to say, but you still got to look out for numero uno, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going, okay, I go take my senior year there, and maybe they lost confidence in me. So maybe I don't get the same opportunities. Maybe, who knows? But for me anyway, in my life, I've done well because I've taken those options off the table. So I said, I'm not going to find out if they lost confidence in me. The Red Sox like me. They want to pay me money, and I'm signing this right now.
Wow. And then you, I'm assuming there's a phone call there with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. Like, hey, guys, guess what? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, that honestly, man, like I wish I could say our family was kind of like that, but it wasn't. I think it was mostly me. I was just so focused and entrenched in baseball. So I think, maybe communicated with mom kind of deal. And then family might have called me stringing in. I've always kind of been the guy where I've never really said, okay, I did it, and now everybody needs to celebrate with me, right?
Right.
But also you got to remember, my whole life, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player, so we're not even there yet.
Yeah, we're just taking another step. Yeah. So then you take the next step. And you get to go to spring training with Boston that year?
No, yes, but minor league spring training, right? So I guess just for anyone listening out there, baseball, especially at that time, was really complex. So you had, if you walk down from the major leagues, you go MLB, and then right below that's AAA, and then below that, AA. Below that, high A, single A. Below that is low, single A. Below that is the Collegiate League, New York Penn League for the Red Sox at that time. That's where I started. And then below that is rookie ball, and that's down usually in Florida or in Arizona, depending on where your team's home camp is for spring training. And then below that is the Dominican and Venezuelan leagues. So that's where they sign Venezuelan Dominican kids for like 15, 16 years old. And then they play until they're mature enough to start coming over to the States in rookie ball. So that's so many levels to work through when you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
And at every level, it's like I think people get this impression, like so people look at it like, oh, well, you were a Major League Baseball player, so you kind of just carve through. Yeah, you do. It does look like that when you look back on the stats, right? When you look back on the stats, you were healthy. Okay, you carved through that league. You're healthy, you carved through that league. But every little step inside of each one of those leagues was just tremendously difficult. Every single player on the field was the all-star of college baseball. Yeah. Every single player was the all-star of their country's baseball.
And all of them are hungry, and they all got the same story. I'm gonna be a Major League Baseball player, right? That's their whole drive.
That's it. So when you really think about it too, and I mean, you're getting paid peanuts in minor league baseball. You get a signing bonus. Some guys don't, but you get paid peanuts. So it really is just like it's a game of attrition. It's also a game of mental acuity, strategy, confidence, right? And and again, like if I hadn't had my destination, hey, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player, how do you get through all that?
Yeah, I mean, if money was the motivator, if interviews on ESPN was the motivator, it would be in those seasons where you'd quit.
Yeah, there's plenty of those times where you think about it, right? But like,
Yeah,
I guess that's like if you had a message to the audience from this particular talk that we're having, it's there's no way you can get through that unless you actually believe 100% with your whole heart, because you're going to get up against every single man that has the most skills on the planet in that sport, right? And
right,
how do you best them? You have to truly
right,
believe that you're better than everyone else.
right. Regardless of what it might look like currently, the end result is I know where I'm going, right? I know what I'm capable of, and I'm going. You get in my way, I'm gonna have to run you over.
Yeah, and just to make sure that it's clear to the audience, better than them on the field, not as a person, right? But like,
Yeah.
and maybe your skills aren't better, but you better believe that if you're going to win.
Yeah. Because sometimes you got to trick yourself, right? You fake it till you make it, and then you get one success, and you can start building on that, and then you actually start believing, and that's when things start changing. So you get bumped up through these leagues, and we meet in 2009.
I think so. Yeah.
And at that stage, you're playing. Where are you at that point? AAA?
No, so I was kind of a 4A player that year. I had started out in AAA, got called up right away, played about 100 days in Boston, got called back down, and again, didn't get called up in September, went home. That's where we met, and then got called up randomly because they needed me for whatever reason. They never even told me the reason, but just called me up randomly, and like I was pitching in Yankee Stadium 2 days later.
So that's the part we didn't. I didn't catch that part, but the 100 days that you got called up. What was it like the first time you walked into the Boston Fenway Park, and you're a player, and you walk into the clubhouse and you're looking around, and who are the guys you're looking at?
Yeah, so I had a couple of spring trainings, right, where I was in major league spring training in some capacity. So I was already used to all the named players, and you go through the training. Every good organization takes you through the training. Don't read names on the back of jerseys; they're just years ahead of you. You can't do that. You know all the little things that, because you get there and you really do. You start to look. All right, I'm pitching against A-Rod now. Or I'm pitching against Matsui or Derek Jeter. But you can't think like that. You're just pitching against the batter. So
right.
So to bring it back, you walk in, the first time, and honestly, everyone that I talked to wanted to know the same thing. Oh, what was Fenway like? Honestly, the clubhouse, not that great. But it was kind of cool. They had like private chefs and workout gurus and all kinds of stuff. They really had the tooling. It's just that the stadium was old. There was no way to build it any bigger, really, because it was kind of controlled by roads that you can't build into, right?
Right.
And, I mean, the stadium's cool, but really old. And
right.
So anyway, it was like you're not really nervous. You go out to the field. You start playing catch, before everyone gets there. And those are the first times I think you really start to realize the scale you're on, because you're playing catch and you're popping a mitt and it's popping the entire stadium.
Yes. And there's a sound, man. There's a sound. And I can't imagine what it sounds like standing out in the middle of a pro stadium that's empty, because I know what it sounds like when it's full. It's amazing, that sound. There is a sound when you're popping a fat ball into somebody's glove, no doubt. And what was that like?
First time, it was really nerve-wracking. And everyone, I can't remember if it might have been John Smoltz or somebody. I was talking to somebody and they said, yeah, just when you go out there, just don't look up. That's the only thing you got to do. Just keep your head down. you're playing catch right there, just like every other game you've ever been in. Because, I mean, look, in AAA, you know, like sometimes we'd have 5, 10, 15,000 people there. So now you're in Boston, there's like 30,000 or whatever it is, 40, I don't know. So times 2.
And they love their Boston Red Sox.
Yeah. There's more at stake for sure, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's not minor leagues.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so the first time I actually pitched was against the Orioles. And I could tell you a story there if you want to hear it, but it's like 2 weeks after I got called up.
Let's hear it.
For 2 weeks. I got called up on I was closing out a game in Rochester, which was, I think, the Twins, AAA. So we're on the road. And I closed out a game like 6 pitches or 7 pitches, got the inning done, went back that night. And my manager, Ron Johnson's banging on the door at like 3 a.m. Get your butt up. You're going to the show, you know?
So, and you're jacked, I'm sure.
I'm like, it's 3 a.m., PD.
Oh.
It's 3 a.m. I just pitched. I had a couple of brewskis. Like, I was like, oh, I'm good. You know, like, well, now it's 3 a.m. And so I got to pack my bag. Now, think about this. I was living in Providence at the time, I think, right around there, Pawtucket type area, because that's where AAA team was. So I had all my stuff there. I had my travel bag like I was on the road. So I just already had my bag. But, like, you know, it wasn't like bring your life. So I just grabbed my bag and just went to the airport. And they said, yeah, we'll buy you a ticket. So the travel secretary with the big leagues is buying me a ticket. I got like no money in my account at this time because I've been in a minor league for like 3 years, and you don't get paid in the minor leagues. So, so I'm like, so the travel secretary buys me a ticket. It's like 5 a.m. now. Everything keeps getting delayed. Like all the flights are getting delayed. The big league team's playing in Oakland. So I'm sitting there sweating, and I'm like, I'm not going to be in the big leagues because my flight's getting delayed. You know, like, dude, that's a serious payday for a guy who's like trying to get in the big leagues. First off, you go to the 40-man roster. So you're guaranteed to make 40-man roster money plus your big league split for however many days you're there. You get $700 and something cash right away. You get money for hotels. Like on a 4-day series, you get like whatever it was, $1,000. You know, so like you're starting to get money coming in, and you need it. And but meanwhile, I'm delayed in the airport. I'm like, this is ridiculous. If I don't make it to the big leagues and I'm like stuck in the airport, I'm gonna do something bad here. You know.
Yes, because you're supposed to be there. You've known this since you were 2 years old, and here it is right in front of you, and the plane's saying, nope, you're not going to Oakland.
Can't get there. So finally I get there, and there was nobody in the bullpen. Wakefield started that game, knuckleballer, and like, you know, like literally there's nobody in the bullpen. Like nobody can pitch. Nobody's available. They had like 2 blowout games in a row where it was like 12 innings. So it's Wakefield and me. And I'm on a plane trying to get to Oakland, and he's starting the game, and I land in Oakland. He pitched a complete 9. Like, wow, great game, right? Nobody had to come in the bullpen. It was like 2.5 hours, like, 2-hour game, whatever. It was quick. So I land, go in the clubhouse. I got all my bags. Everyone's like, oh, nice, perfect timing. Let's get on the plane. Fly right back over to the East Coast.
Oh, my. So what is that like? Like you land in Oakland, and no one on the plane knows, hey, this is Hunter Jones. He's a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, right? And you get off this plane. I'm assuming they have a car waiting for you, take you to the stadium. What was it like going to the Oakland Coliseum, by the way?
Yeah, they do all that. I never even stepped foot on the field.
Wow.
To this day, yeah. So just got there. I was in the stadium, never walked on the field, never walked in the dugout.
So then you get back on a plane, you come back to the East Coast, but you're with the team, right?
Yeah, that was a different plane ride than the flight over. right? So the flight over
Yeah.
is like, they put me in a nice seat. I mean, I don't know, I can't remember if it was, I don't think it was first class, but it was a nice seat though, and
Yeah.
it was like last minute. So I think it's the Red Sox. I think they would have put me in first class if there was one, but there wasn't maybe. So anyway, nice seat flying, but from New England to Oakland is roughly a 5 hour, 6 hour flight. And same thing back. So that's 12 hours of flying. But on the way back, now you're on Red Sox private charter jet. Everyone's playing poker. Everyone's like, you got like guys, on like, little skateboards without wheels, like while the plane's taking off, just like cruising all the way down the aisles. And, I'd never seen anything like it. Yeah, I'd never seen anything like that. So it was just, hey, do whatever you want. You're in the big leagues and, handle yourself professionally. But also, if you're a superstar, you can really do whatever you want. And so, like, guys, we monkey around a little bit and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And who's your manager for the Red Sox at this stage?
It was Terry Francona.
Yeah. And then Tito obviously went to Cleveland, and he just retired. Was it last year before last? Great story for him, winning World Series with the Red Sox, but never did it with Cleveland, by the way. I'm not bitter. I'm just saying. He didn't break through in Cleveland. But back to you in Boston. You come back here in Baltimore, and this is your first time on the field in Major League Baseball. So you're flying on this plane. You went from no money to being treated like a billionaire superstar, right? You get on a private plane. Everything on the plane is different. The atmosphere is different. You can have anything you want, I presume, to eat or drink. And who are you sitting with? Who are you talking to? And was there any jaw-dropping moments on that trip where you're looking around saying, man, I can't believe I'm on a plane with who?
No, I think that so that first plane ride, I actually ended up playing a little poker. It was a 6 hour flight, so I sat next to, you have your own row wherever you sit, right? So I sat down. I think I had a filet mignon and whatever. Next to me was, I think it was Takashi Saito. He was a Japanese pitcher that we had. And so he's on the other row and he's like, hey, like bowing, hey, welcome, thanks. We didn't say a word though. It was all just like inferred, right?
Right. And so then what?
Yeah, so then I got invited to, I can't remember, I think it was like towards the back half of the flight, I got invited to play poker because somebody dropped out. And they said, Jones, do you want to play? I said, yeah, I don't have any money, but yeah, I want to play. And so one of the guys they brought a bag of cash, like 200-300 grand cash on every flight. And so you just grab whatever you want to play. And I ended up winning a whole bunch of cash. Like it was the best game you could play in with the worst poker players with the best attitude for losing money. But I think it's one of those things they do. They probably planned it a little bit. Hey, we got a brand new guy. Let's drop him a little cash to get started here.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you do you think that was kind of the makeup of that team? Do you think they kind of said, hey, we know what it's like, guys that have been through it and they're now in the big leagues and now they don't have that struggle and they see you coming up. They're like, yeah, we got to help a brother out, but we ain't going to just hand it to him because that's not how alpha personalities work. You don't want charity, right?
Right. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that. Sometimes, dues would just be covered. And I mean, you're getting into, I was with the team for a while there that year, but you go to pay your dues. Clubhouse dues are expensive in the big leagues. Even back when I was playing, I think it was like $100 a day or something. I mean, you get what you pay for. I mean, you're talking about professional stuff, like I said, everywhere you go, you're getting filet basically. Unless you go to like an underserved team or something. But like most of the big teams that we would play, like you go to New York, you go in and there's everything that you'd ever want to order anywhere in the world in the visitor New York kitchen with like 3 chefs just there. They're like, yeah, what do you want? What do you have? We have everything. What do you want?
But I didn't know about clubhouse dues. So this is every clubhouse, not just in Boston, but everywhere you went, you had to pay them $100.
$100 a day, rain or shine. They do everything for you. They clean all your jerseys, clean your laundry, run errands if you need them to. They take care of you, right? So it's like having a personal assistant at a discount. They're a personal assistant for everyone in the clubhouse. But they take care of all the stuff that you need. I mean, you have to have guys to wash your jerseys. I mean, Big Papi doesn't get done playing and go run a load of laundry. Big Papi never does that, right? Right. So sometimes, and it wasn't all times, but these guys were great. Like sometimes I'd go to pay my dues at the end of a trip, and they're like, "Oh no, you're good. Your dues are already paid."
Wow.
Like,
and you don't know who did it?
Trip. You owe $800 plus tip, right? So what's 20% of 800? 2 times 8, 160. So about $1,000 you would have to pay, and they're just like, "No, you're good."
Because someone covered it from one of your teammates?
Yeah, like who did it? Nah,
and you don't know.
It's all good. Rookies don't pay here. It's covered. Whatever.
Wow.
So it could have been the clubbies. Could have been. I think it was guys like Papi and Veritek. Those guys, they were big contracts, and I mean, I just think they were good guys. You don't hear that. You don't hear that everywhere you go.
Right.
Euclid, Pedroia. We had a bunch of big name players, and these solid dudes. Papelbon. I honestly I wish I had contributed more to that team. My arm was kind of hurting that year. That's something else we could talk about. It was kind of in and out that year. But I think in general, couldn't ask for a better group of guys.
Mm. And so you're playing around some really professional guys that are known in the big leagues. These are Veritek, Papelbon, Ortiz. These are some, top of the pro level guys. So you're in this environment.
The entire team was all-stars. If we take it around the horn, you had JD Drew in right, you had Jacoby Ellsbury in center, Jason Bay in left field, Mike Lowell third base. I think our shortstop, I'd have to go look it up, but we had a good shortstop that year. He was just hurt a bunch. So let me pause on that. But then you had Pedroia at second, Euclid at first, Papi DHing, Veritek behind the dish. And then you had John Smoltz, Josh Beckett. I'm probably missing a couple of starters there. I know I am, so no disrespect. But you had Papelbon as a closer. Like literally, you look around the whole team and you're like, pretty much everyone here has been an all-star.
Right. And you're in that company. So it makes you come to a whole new level, doesn't it? This is what I was created to do. I said I was going to be here. And if I don't carry out my job, I ain't going to stay here because these guys ain't going to tolerate that. I gotta pick this thing up.
That's right.
And so you get on the field for the first time. So now you're in the dugout, you're doing the flying, and now you're, getting acclimated. And now you go out to the bullpen for a game, and the first time they tell you, Jones, get up. So now you're loosening up because, college you were a starter, right? But now in this league, you're setup man, closer type role. So you're just waiting for the call to the bullpen. And the first call comes in, you're warming up, and then the pitcher, for whatever reason, your manager decides I'm making a switch to Jones. Manager trots out, and he points to his left arm, and you're in the bullpen. What's your first thought?
Let's do it.
No concern at all.
No, I had waited 2 weeks to get in the game. So there was other times where Jones get loose, right? And then, we don't need you, Jones, get down. I mean, that's common in the big leagues, though. Some people know it, some people don't. But, like, that's more common than you think. You know, you watch baseball, so you see it's like, okay, you know, this guy gets up and then he gets down. Maybe he gets up again. Maybe he gets down. And then they're like, okay, we're 2 innings later. So actually we're looking at a whole new set of guys that are going to be involved in these innings, you know?
Right. Right. So this is you finally get the call. You said you're playing in Baltimore?
No, we're in Boston, first game.
And you got Baltimore is who you're playing.
Yep.
So they call you out. You remember the inning situation?
Yeah, it was 9th inning, but we had a huge lead. I think it was like 12-1 or something like that. You know, it was like we got to get this guy an inning because we're blowing him out, and he's been up and down probably 5 days out of the last week, and just hasn't gotten the game. This is the inning right here. Here you go. Heart of the order for the Orioles. Good luck.
Yeah. And so, first major league guy that you faced, you remember?
Yeah, I think it was Juan Pierre, maybe.
And how'd you do?
I got him to pop out, I think. I can't remember all the guys I faced. I know Adam Jones was in the mix there. I basically how it went is I think there was a strikeout, 2 flyouts, or a flyout. Strikeout, 2 flyouts, and a would-be ground ball out that was an error. So I basically got 4 outs that inning.
Wow. Oh, welcome to the big leagues. And was Cal Ripken still playing at that point or no?
No. Their big players were like, Adam Jones was like their big hitter at that time. They had a couple other guys too that were like up and coming that actually were really big players, but people didn't realize it yet. So I actually pitched against a pretty tough core. It's very, very hard first inning, really, when you think about it. But I mean, you're in the big leagues, so like it's not like you're going to have a cupcake inning no matter what.
Yeah, because they've got not only the stars, but the guys that are playing behind them that are just as hungry, that grew up believing they're going to be in the show, and they're there, we're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, and they're better than you. Everyone thinks it. Everyone thinks they're better than you. Same as me.
Yeah.
I think you're better than everyone, right? But that's what every single person thinks. Every swing, every pitch, every play.
Yeah, and that's a mentality. It's a mindset. So then you get 100 days with them. You get sent back down AAA, finish the season AAA, and you're like, it's August, time's up. It's now September. Man, I'm just catching my breath. And I get to meet you. Your mom's like, oh, yeah, here's my son. It's Hunter. Nothing other than this is my son, Hunter. And you leave that day. You get called up the next day, I believe. You're on a plane leaving West Palm Beach. You fly into New York, and that night you're standing on the mound, not just at Yankee Stadium. I mean, that's one point, but you walk into the Yankee Stadium, and now they say, hey, Jones, get up. And you're up, loosening up, and here they come. Manager comes out, points his left arm, and the gate opens. You're running to the mound in Yankee Stadium. What's going through your mind?
Let's do it.
How come I know most of your answers before I even ask the question? I love it. There's no, I'm peeing down my leg. I was made for this. Let's get this on. I can't wait.
Yeah, like why wasn't I here earlier in September? What's up?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, why'd you wait so long? I'm going to show you why you made a bad decision. So you go trotting out and tell us that story. I love this story.
I think I did all right for a couple innings. And then, honestly, I had thrown for they asked me to throw. I wasn't like throwing bullpens like I was getting back. I threw a couple long toss and kept the arm going. I think it was 15 days later. And then, but it's one of those things that I think in retrospect too, I want to say I pitched into 2 or 3 innings there. Maybe like I had a good shutdown inning and I didn't have the fastball I had all season. Cause look, I mean, they literally kept me out of competitive play for like 20 days, or roughly. You're not going to come in and just fire bullets, but it was okay. And I got through an inning, and I was thinking, oh, this is great. Like, good. Who else is coming in next? They're like, you got it again? I'm like, all right. So I think the second or third inning didn't go so hot, but that's I think I gave up a run or two, maybe second or third inning, but yeah, I couldn't actually believe that I went out there and just threw up a 0. first inning. It was like, oh, that was unexpected.
And you trot out onto the mound, Yankee Stadium. You look down and you're facing Hideki Matsui. And you thought to yourself, the best thing I can do in this situation is what?
Well, Hideki and I had a little history that season, and Hideki, he didn't really like me that much because I was a little bit wild. I wasn't like, I never would claim to be a guy that had high location. Everything I threw was kind of firm. Everything I threw moved, right? And Hideki and I had some unique history that year, and I don't blame him. I'm telling you now, and I told the same story then, but I was just wild. But I think Hideki thought this guy, every time I faced him, he got knocked down. Now, I'll say this. These Japanese guys, so they're a little more animated than an American guy, but like, he's not wrong. The ball was definitely going at his head a few times, and not intentional. But there were some New York articles and some Boston articles which, showing him like getting dusted and getting knocked to the ground, and it became a thing. And then, so anyhow, we're up there again. I don't know what it was. It's almost just like he was willing it to happen. Like, one of my wild pitches was going to knock him down. So he got knocked down again. He wasn't too happy about it.
And you face Jeter, you face A-Rod, but when you get back into the dugout, or sometime shortly around that time, you get a new nickname, and that nickname was courtesy of Big Papi, David Ortiz. What did he start calling you?
I think it was him, because he was like, "Oh, Duck," so he started calling me Duck because Becky had the Duck.
I think Matsui may have had a different name for you.
That guy really didn't like me. And, Japanese guys are like very genuine. Like, if you've ever met a Japanese guy, especially a highly focused athlete, some of the nicest guys on the planet. But man, they don't play around. They don't play around. They don't like jokes, none of that. So like, I'm the dead opposite. Like, if you're hanging around me, we're going to be joking most of the time. If you're not,
right,
probably not going to hang around too much. Like, I'm looking for a good time in life.
Yeah.
I like jokes. I like to hang out. I like to. So anyway, he probably hated me more than any other player, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you gotten any Christmas cards from him recently? Or? And it's addressed to Duck. That's your name. Send it to Duck. But you also told me a story about Nolan Ryan when you first got called up to big leagues. You're telling me about how you kind of get part of the club because now you're in an elite group. And so in this elite group, you get to hear some of the backstories. So there's a story of Nolan Ryan pitching, and he's throwing at Robin Ventura. And Robin Ventura charges the mound, and it's like the highlight that they've used for MLB for years. And that is Nolan Ryan just standing there waiting. And when Robin gets there, he puts him in headlock, and then he just starts pulverizing him. And what's the story? The inside story about what they told Robin Ventura to do.
Yeah, so I guess what I heard, and listen, I wasn't there, right? But you hear all these inside stories. And so apparently what it was is Ventura was kind of talking about how he was a young guy at that time. And I guess he was talking about kind of how, well, he's not going to throw at me because I'll get him. But yeah. So if he throws at me, I'm going to get him. He's not going to throw at me though, So Nolan threw at him, and if you rewatch that video from that lens too, you'll kind of see it because he looks like, oh no, I got to do this.
I don't want to go out here, but I've got street cred. Right? Yeah,
like, I don't know who would actually want to do it, and it's kind of funny too because like that's like if that isn't the nature of a baseball clubhouse, I don't know what is. It's to get the young guy's ego bucking and into something like that, right? Like
right.
It's pretty obvious, even though Nolan was 42. Like you didn't want to charge Nolan Ryan. That's like one of the worst case scenarios you can have.
It didn't turn out good, did it?
Didn't turn out good for Ventura. And what's funny about it is, I mean, he's what is he still a manager? He's a great manager. He was a Hall of Fame caliber player. I don't think he made it to Hall of Fame, but like that's the weird part about it. He was a Hall of Fame caliber player, and all anyone could remember him for was just getting knuckled by Ryan on that charge.
No one's ever forgot him. That's crazy. But you can see the clubhouse mentality of them guys egging them on. Like, all right, you've been running your mouth talking about how hard you are. Now you're out here in front of thousands of people. You told us how tough you were. Now you're going to show us, right? And he's going to put one in your ear hole. What are you going to do?
Well, that's the other thing too, is like, some of these guys that have been around the league for 10, 15 years, like they know that Ryan is going to hit somebody because of circumstances, right? Like there's times when you know that that's going to happen. So you go and egg on the young, talented player that's got the big ego. Like you're going to get him to come to that decision. Oh, he ain't going to throw at me. I'm going to get him. You going to get him? Yeah, I'm going to get him. But you won't.
That's the beauty of the clubhouse, man. There's something about the way that works in the team, right? They're gonna keep pushing you. I love it. So that then takes us back to something you said about the mental part of the game and the way you got to talk to yourself and talk your way through some things. So that takes us back into your story where you finish playing with the Red Sox that season, and you get traded. And you get traded from Boston to Florida. You get to Florida, and you have another injury. And now you're back in rehab. And this is where some of our relationship kind of grew, is when you were going through the process of rehabbing again. And talking, like you would call sometimes, and you'd be like, man, I know what I can do, or at least I knew what I could do before this injury. But now after this injury, I'm not sure, but I'm still working on this. But you used to say to me all the time, baseball's already given me more than I ever thought I would get out of it, right? This is like I'm already playing with house money. So how did you come through the process then of this rehab process and then determining when it was time to stop playing? Yeah,
so that was tough. I think that's the toughest thing for any baseball player is just, how do you know, right? And I wasn't done. Like, I think I still could have had a couple of good years in me. Honestly, if you look at my career, you're going to find a guy that had pretty good tools, got hurt at the wrong time a lot. And that's what happens to a lot of players that don't have a stat line or don't play for 5 years, or the difference in timing and injuries, right? I just got hurt at a bad time, and I got hurt with the wrong team because the Marlins were a little cheap. Right. And I made some bad decisions after that because I had Freddie Gonzalez, who was the manager for the Marlins. He got moved over to the Braves, and he gave me a 2-year minor league deal, and I didn't take it. And looking back, I'm like, why wouldn't I take that? But I think at the time it was like, just to give myself a little grace. It was hey, I'm 26 years old or whatever, 27. And if I don't get back to the big leagues in 2 years, I'm going to be 29, 28, whatever. But, now it's like, whoop-de-doo. So what? But then it was like, that's like an older baseball player, which is true. But also, hey, you're with the gangster that likes you. Go with it, right?
Right.
So that's the
Right.
way to go. I didn't do it, and ultimately, I think it was my downfall. I don't know if I would have made it back again, but I think that was my strongest chance, and I didn't do it.
Mm. And I remember when you were going through that, because you were also dealing with a little bit of what am I going to do next, and where's my management taking me, getting me opportunities, and so you end up playing in the Dominican Republic, and you're trying to rehab from this injury, but then you ultimately decide excuse me, you ultimately decide, yeah, my body's just tapping out on me, right? Is that basically the conclusion you drew?
Yeah, I got to a third injury. I was playing like independent ball for a few years, a couple years, and I would play foreign ball in the winter. I'd go to Venezuela, Dominican, because they pay guys who've had big experience decent money down there. And had some opportunities to go to like Mexico during the summer. I mean, that's when you're just cashing in. You're going, okay, like, these guys will pay you $15,000 a month, right? So you can just get cash. Okay. But I still wanted to be in the big leagues. And I think I just, like I said, I missed the opportunity with Freddie.
Yeah.
That was, so, but also I'll say this, and I think, for anyone listening too, I'm going to take it to another level that I wasn't at. But when you look at my career and you say, yeah, you made it there, that's good enough, and it honestly was better than I thought. However, I think it's still about how you view something, right? So I told you my whole life it was I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player, right? But it wasn't.
Right.
I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player, all-star, and play in the league 10 years. That was never the vision. So once you get there, you either have to recalibrate it or whatever. If you have that vision from the start and and it's real, I think some of those guys that are the superstars, that was what happened to them. Either they recalibrated it or they had that right out of the gate. So like making it to the big leagues wasn't good enough. Like just like how you were like, wow, you signed professional. Well, that wasn't a big deal, right? So I think that some of those guys, they got to the big leagues and it was like, yeah, okay, expected, but now I got to be an all-star.
Right. Right. So they had a whole different gear that they hit.
Whole different.
And you're
whole
saying
different
that
level in the same league.
And you're saying that, yeah, you had the goal to get there, but you didn't really process it in your mind, excuse me, to say, not only am I going to get here, I'm going to be a 10-year stud, a 12-year stud. I'm going to be a Cy Young winner. I'm going to go into the Hall of Fame, or all of those other things. It just, that isn't where you were. And all along the way, you picked up friendships. You met good people like Larry Walker, former Expo, Rockies, player who went into the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and Larry lived in Palm Beach, or came to Palm Beach. However, that worked out. I got to meet him a couple of times actually while we were there. But he was kind of somebody that could kind of speak your language because he was there. He understood, and you had guys like that would tell you straight up, this is what you got to do, or this is what you don't have to do. But you came to the conclusion. You said, you know what, I've gotten everything I want to get out of this. But there's some things in life I haven't done yet, and I want to do them. And that transitions us into where you are now, where you're working from all of these experiences from Major League Baseball. And now you have a successful career as a software expert, IT guy, and you're using all of the stuff that you used prior in your life to change gears. And you're like, yeah, I left Florida State before I graduated, so I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my BA, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to get involved in something I enjoy. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy software. I enjoy the IT part of life. How's that journey gone, and how are you in it now?
Yeah, it's good. You see a bit of the same wherever you go. right? You see, like people over here are just as hardcore as Major League Baseball players. But I think why I got welcomed in after, it took a while to get to where I was at again. I had to restart. But I just have no interest in. I like making jokes. Like I said, I like hanging out. That's personal time. I like people, right? That's work and personal. Yeah. But also, look, if you're ex-military, if you're ex-athlete, especially at a high level, you're not interested in horsing around. You're not interested in making somebody check your clock. You're interested in success. So I think if you can like something and you can become interested in that, you don't think about a boss, even though you have one. Everyone has one, right? Even if you're an independent business owner, you got bosses. You just got like 100 of them, right? But
right,
if you're not actually worried about that, and you're thinking, something like this, and this is what you get out of playing, is you get, hey, you got to do the right things when nobody's looking, right? And eventually you grow into, I'm doing this to be good at something. And then you get into, I'm in constant learning because I want to be the best at something. But that takes everything else off the table. I mean, you don't need a boss when you think like that. So, if people can get themselves to think like that, then it takes away a lot of worries. You sleep better at night. Sure, you still have your times where things aren't going well, but I think just having that as a process can completely transform your life. And it's not industry specific, right? You're going to be able to rise to the top if you take that approach, and it makes your life a little easier. At least for me, I just enjoy doing things well.
So what is it that you do? Like, where are you in your second professional journey? Like you're working for IT things, but get a little more specific. And what is it that you do as a software expert?
Okay, so I work for a company called FieldFlex, and we deliver mobile enterprise to enterprise grade companies. So not enterprise the car company, but enterprise grade companies. So we track business. You look at it like small business, that's local, right? Starts to grow into another category, which is called mid-market. And some of those companies are, making billions even. And then you get into enterprise, and it's like some of them have a cap of $1 trillion, right? Decisions don't come from an owner. They come from whoever has the book, who has experts. And so when I think about it, I'm director of enterprise sales for the company. There's other directors, and we handle software deliveries. We try to make sure that software is being sold appropriately to the client, right? So what does that mean? That means that an enterprise grade company has people at all different levels. They have IT, people that are interested in the technology, so security, ISO standards, lockouts, things that can keep their giant environment secure. Then you have administrators, people that are very technical on a back-end software like IBM Maximo, where they keep all of their data and they try to get all of their intelligent business decisions to be made, right? And you have people in the field like technicians and supervisors. And you have to really make all of them happy with what they're buying. So you have to be that person that can answer your phone. You have to be that person that understands the technology. You have to be that person that can broker and negotiate. And basically, if you do it right, you get a delivery every here and there. I am of the same mind here that I am in baseball. And I tell people, I will not sell you software. Or I will sell you software, but I'm going to make you use it. So if I sell you software, it's not going to sell the stuff. I will call your phone. I will fly there. I will make you do it. So just know that. Like, this is going to be unsuccessful.
Right. And if there was a statement that sums up your personality, there it is. Y'all about it, man. You're just a real dude, and you don't allow for slackers in your life. that much I've picked up. You don't associate, hang out with, or entertain people that are dead weight, that are
No,
emotionally or otherwise lazy. That just you just won't touch that, will you?
I think you and I have that in common. I always tell people sometimes I like monkey business because I do, because I like to have
Yeah,
fun, but I don't like
yeah,
horseplay.
yeah, yeah. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Living that life. I get it. And it's and all of your story, we've covered an uncensored path for Hunter Jones. We've covered just about everything there is to cover, from chucking a shoe across a store at 2 years old to realizing a dream in your early 20s, standing on the mound of Major League Park, throwing fastballs at Hideki Matsui's ear, creating the nickname Duck, which I just love, by the way, and parlaying that into knowing, hey, I'm going to come back from these injuries, had multiple injuries and all of these bumps in your road, and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then you reach a point where you say, yeah, my professional career in baseball is over, because now I'm going to pursue something else, which kind of brings you back to your aunt asking you when you were younger, what's plan B? So you finish playing, and plan B is, yeah, we're going to get into software, we're going to get into IT, and I'm going to use my people skills, which you have great people skills. You're going to use those skills to make people feel comfortable making purchases that they need, and walking people through whatever they're dealing with. And that's also been a success. So we've covered everything in Hunter Jones, but in case we haven't, I'm going to throw it back to you. Anything we missed, and you get the final word.
Now, I want to thank you. I think you are born to interview. You're born to lead in general. I think this is a great platform for you. And I've known it. I saw you, PD, perform the first time back right around 2009. I think I went to one of your sermons. But this is exactly what you should be doing. So this is really cool. I'm glad that you had me out on your show. And yeah, if I can be of any assistance to you, always will. Appreciate you and your family. And if you ever need anything from me, I'll be here.
And I totally believe that. And very kind words. And I don't take, you don't give compliments easily or undeservingly. So any compliment from you holds a very higher place in my mind. But before we go, you had a dog, a German Shepherd by the name of Bourbon. And I fell in love with Bourbon because while you were still pursuing your baseball career, your mom was like the dog sitter for Bourbon. And that's where I met Bourbon. And you got to know that when I met Bourbon, this German Shepherd, I fell in love with Bourbon, loved him. And I said, I'm going to get me a Shepherd. And I found out that Bourbon died at 14 years old last year. What a great, great dog. And it made me get a Shepherd for my son. And then my son, I didn't think that went through, by the way. I bought him a Shepherd, and then he left for college 2 years later. So the Shepherd didn't go with him. The Shepherd stayed with me. And then he died 2 years ago, and I got another Shepherd. And we've got that also in common because of you and Bourbon, I got a Shepherd. And then Bourbon died, and you got two more Shepherds. So tell me the names of your new Shepherds. Bourbon is now gone, but he's running around with Maximus Alexander the Great. That's who we lost a couple years ago. But what are the new Shepherds?
Yeah, so I have one, but but mom also loves shepherds now, and Scotty, her longtime partner, also loves shepherds. So they got, in the meanwhile, right? Bourbon kind of inspired a lot of people to get shepherds. So they got Danny, they got Finn, they got Rocky. Those are three shepherds that they have together, and then
Wow.
I got Zeus.
Zeus, that's good. And you can't get any better. We were talking about that. What do you do about the dog hair? And I said, there ain't nobody nowhere that can solve that problem. If you got a shepherd, if you know, you know. There ain't no fixing that. You got dust balls blowing across your house 24/7, no matter how much you sweep it. I don't know how they do it, but that's what they do. I love that. And I love and loved bourbon. Can't wait to meet Zeus. We'll get to meet him soon, I'm sure. But Hunter Jones, thank you for your compliments. Thank you for your time. We spent a little bit of time today. I guess what we do on Life Uncensored, we just go unscripted and uncensored, and we go as long as we go. Do what we do. Covered a lot of ground, and we're very grateful, Hunter, that you've taken the time to help us, or at least not yet help us, but tell your story. I'm looking forward to your help in the future, being a part of our team at Life Uncensored, because I think God brought us together for a reason, man, and it's deeper than just your baseball story, and it's deeper than my church story. We've transitioned into new things, and look at where we're at now. I love it. So Thank you, Hunter. I'm looking forward to the future. And thank all of you for taking a few moments to listen to Life Uncensored. We will attach Hunter's bio to our YouTube page if you'd like to follow up with Hunter and see what he did in the major leagues or what he's doing professionally now. And perhaps maybe you're a company that would like to have some of his character representing your IT stuff. We'll help you get connected. But that concludes episode 2 of Life Uncensored. This is your host, Dan Sturgill. I appreciate you very much for tuning in, watching, listening to our podcast. And episode 3 is coming up. And all I can tell you about episode 3, it's going to be just as good as episode 1 and 2, because it's just going to be Life Uncensored.
Thank you for listening to Life Uncensored. Please make sure to follow us on social media and Spotify at Life Uncensored, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Life Uncensored Podcast. Tune in next episode to hear another guest, another story, another Life Uncensored.